All right, everyone, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just like I always like to say at the beginning of our meetings where this is happening, this meeting will be recorded. So just FYI that you are on candid camera. Anyway, welcome to you all to the 2021 Capital Neighborhoods Annual Meeting. We're very excited to have you here on a beautiful, if not humid day. And also want to take a special moment to thank our honored guests who are going to be or who are here tonight, and we're going to be hearing a presentation from them at the later half of the meeting after some quick initial comments. So Jacqueline, if you wanted to do the next slide. So this is the quick rundown of what we're going to be chatting about. We've got some quick initial remarks, both from Jacqueline and myself. By the way, just to quickly introduce, I realize I'm being remiss. I'm Eli Judge. I'm the president of Capital Neighborhoods. And for those keeping score, Capital Neighborhoods is the neighborhood association that represents most of downtown Madison. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jacqueline Friedel, who is the vice president of Capital Neighborhoods, and she is the maestra of the shared screen at the moment, for which she has my eternal thanks. After we do some initial comments, we will do some of the fun stuff, the executive council election results. It's going to be very exciting, I promise you. And then finally, we will do what you all have been waiting for, our keynote speakers. We are joined today by three guests, Dane County Board Chair Annalise Eicher, and our downtown Dane County Board representatives, Supervisors Elizabeth Doyle and Supervisor Heidi Wenkleidner. So we're all very excited for those chats. Next slide, Jacqueline. So a few organizational updates that we've got. So those who attended last year's annual meeting will kind of recognize this slide, but it kind of holds over twice over for this meeting. We've had quite the challenge in continuing to have ongoing neighborhood activity during the era of COVID, but I'm happy to report we really knocked it out of the park. We've had events going like crazy, and Jacqueline will expand on that in a few slides, but the neighborhood really has been busier than it's been in a lot of years. So with multiple meetings in 1 week, or and certainly multiple meetings every month. So I really want to thank everyone for their ongoing patience as we have navigated through the COVID restrictions. Things are starting to open back up again, so I think everyone should stay tuned for the possibility that we might be going back to in-person meetings. But we have had ongoing conversations with the fact that a lot of folks, not only for the convenience that it provides, but also because it certainly makes our meetings a lot more accessible. We're going to probably start looking into the possibility of hybrid meetings where people can attend in person, but there will also be a means of capturing the meeting electronically for those that would prefer to attend in that way via Zoom or however we kind of work out. So again, thanks to everyone for their patience as we've done that. Next slide, if you could, Jacqueline. Some general updates. We've had continued our ongoing presence with a lot of downtown stakeholder organizations. Some of the big ones, Downtown Madison Incorporated. We continue to have a presence on their board of directors and have co-hosted many events over the last year. We have been involved in DMI's Downtown Group, which is actually a huge coalition of dozens of different downtown stakeholder organizations that are trying to help downtown turn the next leaf after the COVID era, not only from a business perspective, but also in trying to make downtown more equitable for everyone that might either visit or live downtown. We've worked with organizations like the Monona Waterfront Group and launched the Downtown Neighborhood Coalition, which is actually an organization that brings together all of the neighborhood associations on the isthmus pretty much, working for common goals. So things like racial justice, affordable housing, and things like that, and how our neighborhood associations can be better directed to improve folks' lives like that. And we, as an organization, have also donated to a number of different organizations, some of which you can see listed on this slide. Great. Next slide, if you could, Jacqueline. As is true of really any neighborhood association worth its salt, we've been involved in developments. Capital Neighborhoods is no stranger to steering committees. As you can see, we've been involved in some whoppers over this last year. Some of these projects have values in over the 100 million mark. And the neighborhood association has been able to provide a lot of great feedback and on any number of these projects, some of which are still ongoing. I understand one of the steering committees was meeting just before this one. And by the way, Tim, thank you for your patience as I threatened to kick you out in preparation for our annual meeting. I will say, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone for their tireless effort. If you served on one of these steering committees or the others that kind of didn't make the blockbuster cut here on this list, you really have our collective thanks for all of the countless, often thankless hours that goes into getting that feedback off the ground and providing that that perspective to not only city staff, but the developers to help try and improve these projects at every turn. And the next slide's you, Jacqueline, I believe.
Wonderful. Yes. So hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good evening. Just a few of the initiatives to kind of call out again. Eli brought up the different committees that we've established this year in participation in the Downtown Neighborhood Coalition. I want to send big thanks to those that have been working on Crowley Station and our support of those efforts there, coming in from Emily. I know she's not on this event, but everyone knows who she is. It's been really great doing, I feel like, something outside of our norm of steering committees and events, but supporting the efforts of one individual looking to make an impact in our community. Different resolutions that have been passed through, just calling out again the importance of those and really having a presence in our community. I think for me, one of the things that we've really targeted is growing our membership, growing our engagement, and being active in everything that we've been doing has really helped with that, which is a great segue to my next slide. 20 to 2021 events. As you can see, I could barely fit all the events we've done on one page. We've been very, very busy. Started off the year, for those of you that remember, last year we did a forum on safety with downtown Madison police representatives, followed by one of our CNI expert discussions on recycling in the city. We've had multiple cookies with a cop over the course of the last year. Obviously, we hosted our annual party virtual for the first time, I would say ever, as far as I know, with Steve Levitan's presentation, which was phenomenal, in Madison in the 20s. I learned so much. And then we hosted a community engagement forum with Catalyst for Change and a few other community engagement forums. On the right here, you'll see one with Local Government 101. Big thanks to Ron Luskin, who's on the meeting, for helping moderate those and helping coordinate all the logistics. Just super great, again, to be engaging with our community in different ways, sharing information and bringing people together. We did some fun events too, the Madison Trust for Historic Preservation tour. If you weren't able to join, stay tuned. We're doing some more with the Madison Trust for Historic Preservation, as they have started up their walking tours again, which will be phenomenal. So we have a couple of those coming up. Even this year, again, the list just goes on. We had an aldermanic debate in March. And then finally, the final two here, we had a great event with DMI. Thank you, Jason, so much, as always, for being just such a key ally in the work that we're doing. We've started a new series called Downtown Partnerships. And our first event was on June 8th. We had panelists from Catalyst for Change, NAMI, Madison Police Department, and we talked about unemployment. Well, maybe someday we'll talk about unemployment. We talked about a variety of things related to mental illnesses and how that impacts our community. And we talked about homelessness and kind of how those cross over each other. Next slide here, upcoming events. Of course, we're going to continue our Cookies with a Cop series. We're going to continue our downtown partnerships, which I mentioned. I also mentioned that we have some walking tours with the Madison Trust for Historic Preservation, where folks will pay $5 to attend that, and CNI will provide the other $5 as a donation to the Madison Trust for Historic Preservation. We will continue to collaborate this year with Downtown Madison Inc. Again, again, can't say enough how much I've enjoyed working with Jason, learning so much from Jason, and just being such an integral part in what we do. We'll have a variety of volunteer opportunities, fingers crossed. Kind of waiting to see how stuff with the pandemic shuffles out, but it would be great to get folks together again and doing some volunteer initiatives for our community. And then of course, your regular monthly district meetings, a lot of, I presume, even more steering committees coming up. So stay tuned, we'll see. And with that, I will toss it back over to Eli.
Yes, drum roll, please. The Capital Neighborhoods Executive Council election results. As all of you should know, we conducted the election electronically like we did last year. And this year we had finally worked out all the kinks. It worked great. And got the results. Happy news, if you ran for something, you won something. In Bassett, Pete Osland got his seat. He's back for another term. First Settlement, Jim Scretney got his seat. In Mansion Hill, Fred Mose re-earned his seat. And we have a newcomer in Mansion Hill, Scott Thompson, who was a write-in candidate. And I reached out to Scott earlier today and is overjoyed to join the Executive Council. And finally, we have the possibility of a new candidate a new appointee to James Madison Park. Alec Einsman was, I think I'm pronouncing that right, was written in. I have not yet heard back from Alex as to whether they are, whether it was their idea or not. But once, if they are interested and fit the criteria of living in the district and are fully paid members, well, then golly, we've got another representative for James Madison Park. Finally, as just housekeeping for Mifflin, we did have 2 write-ins. The 2 write-ins were Tim Camps and me. I am happy to say for whoever wrote in both of us, don't worry, the mischief was already managed. Tim is on the Executive Council by virtue of being chair of Mifflin. And I am on the Executive Council forever because I am a soon-to-be former past president of the Neighborhood Association, and the Neighborhood Association's bylaws make me a lifetime voting member. So thank you anyway. That was very nice of both of you, for both of us. But don't worry, you got what you came for. On this final point, I did want to say a special thanks to Scott Kolar, who really administered the entire thing electronically, did a magnificent job. And I can say personally, I am overjoyed that he did it and I didn't have to. So my extreme thanks to Scott Kolar, who did just an excellent job of administering this year's elections. And with that, we move on to the main event. If we could do the next slide, and I will get to doing some technical wizardry here. We are joined tonight by our friends from the Dane County Board. As listed here, Dane County Board Chair Annalise Eicher and Dane County Representatives Elizabeth Doyle and Heidi Wengleitner. A little bit of trivia, Annalise Eicher and I were in the same year at UW and were in the College Dems for years together. So small world. I'm going to make you all co-hosts if you give me just a little moment. There's Annalise, Heidi, and Elizabeth. Perfect. So you all should be kind of set to go if there's any technical issues.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you, Eli. So, and yes, Eli and I went to UW together. I used to live downtown. I'm Annalise Eicher. I have the honor of chairing the Dane County Board of Supervisors. I actually represent downtown Sun Prairie, so a different downtown in a different city within our county. But I am super happy to join y'all this evening and to join my downtown supervisors, Liz Doyle and Heidi Wegleitner, who do a fantastic job of representing their districts. We have pulled together just a brief presentation overview of the county. Liz, I'm going to go through that. Liz and Heidi are going to jump in with things I miss because we are all still virtual, and we are going to be able to take some questions. But before we start, I do want to give Heidi and Liz an opportunity to say hi before I start sharing my screen.
Thanks, Annalise. So yeah, Elizabeth Doyle, represent District 1. So that includes most of the core of downtown Madison. I like to kind of describe it going from Monona Terrace up to the Edgewater and kind of ebbs and flows in between. And I chair the Health and Human Needs Committee and had a great time attending some of these meetings virtually and back when we were in person to give updates about what's happening in that space. So appreciate being invited here tonight.
And I'm Heidi Wegleitner. Since 2012, I've represented District 2. District 2 includes Mansion Hill, James Madison Park, Penny Lapham, and then it comes all the way down to where I live, near East High, Emerson East, and a little bit of Eakin Park. But yeah, I've been on the board for a while. I am a vice chair of the Health and Human Needs Committee, and also serve on Specialized Transportation Commission, and have lately been working on a subcommittee of public protection and judiciary related to fines and fees work. We've examined fines and fees in our kind of court system, our civil and criminal justice system, as well as within human services, and are preparing some recommendations for the county board to take up. So thanks, Annalise, for taking the lead on these slides coming up here, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And this is, oh, well, goodness. Well, that doesn't look like I want, that's not what I want. I tested this and it totally worked earlier. So hold on a second. Here we are.
Great.
All right. You see it?
Yep.
Cool. We're going to go back here and we're going to go from the start. So
Perfect.
this is a really super broad overview of the county board. We know that you guys hear a lot from your alders, so we just wanted to give you a quick overview of what the county is, what we're doing, you know, general information. Heidi and Liz, I don't have my video or the photos up. So if I skip over something or if you want to add something, just jump in, cut me off. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So with the county, we general structure, which I'm sure you're all aware of, we have a county executive, it's Joe Parisi. He was just reelected in 2021. 37 county board supervisors, 3 of us are here tonight. We actually have 35 supervisors right now due to a resignation and a death, which those are be filled by special elections this summer, one actually in a couple of weeks. Those are actually both seats out in my neck of the woods out in Sun Prairie. And then we also have 29 county departments, and we're going to get into, you know, what those departments are in a sec. So here's a really broad overview of what the organizational structure of our county government is. You know, we've got folks who are, you know, on the board of supervisors who then serve on standing committees, various committees of the board. We've got different departments under the county executive. We also have other elected offices like our clerk of courts, county clerk, DA, register of deeds, sheriff, and treasurer. And there's also a ton of boards and commissions. Some of you serve on some of them. They are certainly not all listed here because there are a lot that do a lot of really great work. We are the executive, legislative, administrative, financial, record keeping, legal, and building maintenance functions of Dane County. That is our general structure. And if you see the photo there, that is a super old photo of the city county building. Looks a little bit different today, but thought that was a fun addition. Some of you actually might even remember when it looked like that. So that was our general government piece. We also have underneath the county public safety and criminal justice. And so These departments are our clerk of courts, our sheriff, who was recently appointed by the governor, Sheriff Calvin Barrett, our family court services, our public safety communications department. So if you dial 911, that's through the county, our county medical examiner, our emergency management, our district attorney, and also the juvenile court program. Those are the departments that are under the public safety and criminal justice umbrella. Our health and human services department, of which we have 2 experts on from the board, really the human services and veterans assistance functions for Dane County. So our veterans office, which is super busy, part of HHN, our human services department. Our human services department in itself is massive. It is the largest part of our budget. We provide a significant amount of services, and we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about that in a second as we talk about our budget. We also, as many of you are probably aware from this last year, share public health with the city of Madison. It has been a big topic for a lot of us in this last year and a half. We also spend a good amount of time on conservation and economic development. We have a fantastic land and water resources department. We also have a waste and renewables department. If you haven't taken a tour of the landfill, I highly recommend it. They're doing some incredible things out there, and they will gladly take you on a tour, like open to the public, full blown, like absolutely highly recommend. We did it with the county board a couple years ago, and it's just fascinating what we can do with trash and recycling and turning it into energy here in Dane County. Some really innovative stuff. We also have our planning and development department that deals with zoning, does not affect the city of Madison, so not real relevant to y'all. And then we also have our land information office, which again doesn't really impact y'all downtown Madison. We also do a lot with culture, education, and recreation. So land and water resources, our library system, obviously the lakes are a huge piece of the county's work. We have the Henry Vilas Zoo, which super fun for adults. If you haven't gone, or if you have children, by all means take them. UW Extension is part of Dane County as well, and they do some really great programming and work within the community. Like our youth and governance program is one really great example of that. And then we also have the Alliant Energy Center, which some really exciting things are happening with that at the moment as well, with the redevelopment work happening over there. The board had been really instrumental in getting that work going in the last 5 years under former board chair Sharon Corrigan. And we're really grateful that the exec has taken the next step to push for that redevelopment and that new sort of gateway into downtown that is connecting, even further the Beltline to downtown Madison. And we also have public works. So if you drive on our roads, if you go through our airport, you are engaging with Dane County Public Works. Maintenance, transportation functions, snow plowing, the whole deal. Our public works department keeps us running in more ways than one, and also gets to take us really cool places from the airport. So this is just a brief descriptor of the county board. It's a nice little photo of all of us. We're a pretty decent board, in my personal opinion. We I think are really diverse in in perspective, and have really great discussions about any number of things. And it's 37 of us is a lot, but I think it breeds really good policy. We're also a really young board, which I think, as a young person, well, not as young anymore, but as a younger person is pretty exciting. Each of our supervisors is appointed to one of 6 standing committees. As Heidi and Liz noted, they are both on Health and Human Needs, which Liz chairs. There's the Environmental, Ag, and Natural Resources Committee, Personnel and Finance, Public Protection and Judiciary, Public Works, Zoning and Land Regulation, So every supervisor serves on one of these, and some also are appointed to the executive committee. So we have a representative from the executive committee who serves on from each of our standing committees. And the executive committee deals with, board office policy and budget, as well as, overarching policy statements that, may come to the board in the form of a resolution. Talk a little bit about our budget here. Oh no, what just happened? Kidding, don't read that. Something just, okay, here we go. So this is the 2021 budget. I apologize for my little tech gaffe there. Usually when I'm talking, somebody else is running the screen. So this is a bit of an adjustment for me. I appreciate your patience. So as you can see, our total operating budget for 2021 is about $615 million, and $250 million of that, which is human services. So that is, primarily where we put our money and our operating dollars. And just a couple of breakdowns here with human services. Go ahead.
I just want to add a point on that. While we do, human services is the biggest part of our budget, I think it's important to recognize that a lot of the funding from human services is federal and state kind of pass-through money that the county is, charged by law with providing certain human services to, whether it's child welfare services to older Americans under the Older Americans Act, administering our, federal food share dollars or employment training, things like that. The 248 includes all the federal money that we also, are funded to serve the community. So there are some other figures that break down like how much each of these categories get in terms of our local revenue from our general fund.
Yeah, and I think I have those. Heidi or Liz, I don't have the notes up from that are connected to this, but I think put those in the notes on the slides. So as I keep talking, if one of you wants to find them, and we can further break them down if someone would like, but I think I put those in the notes section. So as as we see here, this is further breakdown of human services, and as Heidi indicated, this does include some of that federal pass-through money with stuff that we are, funded by the feds to do. But we spend about $215 million, general human services department, behavioral health, $36 million, and then we also spent about $12 million, 9 of which was federal funding on housing access and affordability. I know this is an issue that Heidi has championed on the board, but the entire board, I think, cares deeply about affordable housing and housing access. And so our ability to spend $21.5 million of the CARES funding last year for hotel sheltering was I think pretty significant for us, and additionally spending that $10 million for eviction prevention, and there's obviously still a ton of work to do, and I don't think it will ever be enough money. Additionally on the housing stuff, and Heidi, you can speak a little bit more about this, but we have $3 million set aside for helping the city of Madison purchase the dedicated homeless shelter for men. So when the city is finding a location, the county's ready to go. We've got money budgeted, and we're ready to contribute, and then of course continue to work with the city like we've done in other cases. Heidi, do you want to say more about any of the housing access or affordability, or Liz, anything else on human services funding?
I was going to say, I've got the notes up here for where pieces are coming from, if that's helpful.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the budget authorizes total expenditures of $615 million for operations in 2021. So 314 million are program and outside revenues, 58 million are county sales tax, and 200 million are county property tax levy funds, and then 42 million in the fund balance. So just we'll share that.
Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I don't know, Heidi, if you want to jump in with more affordable housing pieces, because you've worked really hard to make sure that we're being very mindful and looking at that in a thoughtful way.
Sure, thanks. Well, folks are probably aware of the significant federal investment into emergency rental assistance. And even before the federal government specifically earmarked money for emergency rental assistance to folks, under threat of eviction because of COVID, Dane County used its CARES dollars to prioritize eviction prevention funding for, to provide some help with folks who are significantly behind on rent. So we are continuing to do that, and the federal government has invested, billions of dollars. So we're going to continue to see money come in, and it's really important that we get the word out about those funds, and that I know we continue to work collaboratively with the city of Madison, who has setting up a new kind of database to make sure that we can meet our federal requirement to not duplicate those funds. So the county is going to be, Tenant Resource Center will continue to work with folks that are court involved, and then there will be some new providers coming online to help us distribute these funds throughout this year. And another key piece of our housing COVID response is rehousing. So there was $2.5 million allocated for a rapid rehousing program to assist folks who are experiencing homelessness in shelter or in the county funded hotel sheltering program, or folks who are unsheltered, so living in encampments or on the streets. It's going to be really, really critical that we have property owners, landlords that want to come to the table and take what is essentially guaranteed rent being paid by the county, that comes with case management for the tenant, as well as basically help moving in and with this rent subsidy for a 2-year rapid rehousing program. So we really, if you own property, if you know landlords, we really want to talk to you. We really want to partner with you, really, making sure that our neighbors without homes have a chance to get in and stabilize their lives and get back on their feet is really critical. And we need, all the folks to help us in that effort. It's a daunting task. I mean, we have about 300 households that were in the sheltering program through the hotel sheltering. And we have even more that are in the conventional shelter programs and in encampments. And we got to do this summer. So we really need your help. That's my plea. But we're also going to be looking at our other types of funding, like the emergency housing vouchers that are coming to the Dane County Housing Authority, and the City of Madison CDA is getting some housing vouchers as well. We're getting money from home to do more housing program work, and we'll get additional money through our community development block grant, which can't be spent within the City of Madison, but will help in those other areas outside the city limits. So we I'm hoping we can work and communicate with the City of Madison and really look at this housing funding as a package and make sure we're targeting it to the most vulnerable folks and maximizing this, because we all know we have a tremendous need that existed before COVID and has only gotten worse during COVID. So we'll continue to work with the city on the shelter. But we also need to continue to create new units that are permanently affordable and preserve the affordable units we have. So I expect we'll continue to be investing, and I will continue to advocate for increases in our capital budget initiative to create new affordable housing. There's a lot there, and I'd love to come back another time maybe and talk more in depth about housing and security issues. But we do have a tremendous opportunity with this COVID relief money. And I hope that we will, continue to communicate, collaborate, and maximize the impact of this unprecedented amount of money coming to the county.
Yeah, and if I could just add in
Go
a
ahead,
little
Liz.
bit, definitely have heard from Eli and other folks here at CNI and throughout downtown and the county, expressing a want to learn more about what kind of services the county is providing, and especially lots of interest in the Human Services Department. So just wanted to plug again that most of our meetings this year, the second meeting of the month, which are all recorded and available on Dane County Legistar, have been mostly centered around presentations. We kicked off the year with Martha Stacker and John Bauman, our children, youth and families and youth justice folks respectively, to talk about what's happening in those spaces. So if you take a look at those meetings, again, it's a little bit of a condensed schedule moving forward through the summer, but typically it's our second meeting of the month. We'll have an informative presentation. I feel like another service that I'd like to highlight is Fabiola and our fantastic folks working in immigration services. I think that that's something that not a lot of folks are aware that the county is investing in and supporting folks working in that space. And just again, throughout the pandemic, it's just been incredible to see all the work that staff has been doing, and how, there was really just very important work happening in these spaces, and just seeing the way that folks have adapted and addressed kind of emerging issues throughout the pandemic. I think those presentations really highlight some of that work. So would encourage you to keep an eye out for that, and have also, put the call out to this group and others. If there's different areas you'd be interested in learning more about, please, by all means, let me know, or, communicate through CNI, because we're always looking for ways to get that information out to people. So.
And I would love to plug Liz's the second meeting of the month. I can't always make them in person, but I have caught up on the presentations that Liz and staff have pulled together for those meetings, and they are so informative. So I highly recommend. They are all on the county's website, countyofdane.com. Under it's, you can literally find anything on there that's county related, but all of the meetings are posted there, and I highly recommend watching those meetings that Liz was mentioning. Heidi, I cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to mention too that one of those presentations we had on our behavioral health initiatives, and I know there's a lot of interest there, and the county has launched some new a behavioral health resource center last year, which is a really important new piece of our continuum of service, which is a place where a person who is trying to get access to care, or a loved one, a family member, can call with some help kind of navigating what is really a complicated behavioral health system in Dane County. So that's kind of a first point of contact. The idea being it's, no wrong door, you're calling, and you can get sort of connected, evaluated and connected to services that you might be looking for. So, but in addition to that, there's a number of other programs that were covered in that behavioral health one, including like our crisis services, and a little bit of discussion related to our working with the city of Madison on the CARES program, the non-law enforcement crisis response that's off the ground this summer. So again, thanks so much to HHN Chair Doyle for pulling those great presentations together. It's a good resource. Yeah.
It's an excellent resource. So there's a ton going on in our Human Services Department. As Liz said, just if you've got specific questions or ideas, or you watch those meetings, reach out. We love hearing from folks. And if it's human services involved, like Dane County is probably involved in some way or somehow. So it's something we, I think care deeply about in the county. I'm going to move on to our next one here, which is everyone's favorite, land and water resources and lake management. Y'all are uniquely situated between our two big lakes. We spent about close to $11 million in our land and water resources department. And in our 2021 budget, spent about 1.1 on lake management, and then another 1.1 on water resource engineering. One of the big tasks that our land and water resources department has is managing lake levels. And what I've learned, and I think a lot of us have, is that it doesn't matter the day or the time, you will get a phone call saying the lakes are too high or the lakes are too low. And they're doing the best that they can to utilize science and technology and any number of programs to keep water moving through the chain of lakes, through the whole Yahara system. We have water issues not only downtown, but we also have them in the western half of Dane County, as evidenced by the floods from a couple of years ago. But we have consistently invested in programs and equipment to help sort of alleviate some of the stress that's put on our lake, so that we are able to keep moving water through, so that folks can enjoy the lake, so that wildlife can thrive, all of the above. We want them to be successful. That I'm sure y'all have a lot of thoughts and opinions on lake management. I don't know that I'm certainly not an expert, but we have, as I said, really dedicated folks who are, working in that department. And I know that they are always willing to, take calls and questions. The other thing I'll mention about land and water resources is that our parks department is in there. I am biased. I'm on our parks commission and I love our county park system. We saw during COVID, the pandemic, I think almost a 400% increase in attendance in our county parks. So for all of you who got out of downtown and got out into our parks across the county, thank you. I hope you enjoyed them. I know I certainly do. It was just a great way to sort of get out of the house and enjoy. I'm also a big fan of the dog parks, so that's super great.
And I know Indian Lake
Yes.
is obviously a big one that everybody loves, but I'm going to put a little plug for Donald Park. I've got to say it's one of my favorites. And, I could cajole my 13-year-old to go out there, because I was like, you get to see horses when you're walking around, because there's usually folks on horseback on the trail. So I think that's a fun one. And I always still run into people even out there. So it just shows like how many people from throughout the county are getting around and checking out the different parks.
Yeah, they are an incredible resource for us in the county. And I think that was, I think we were so lucky to have those in the last year. And I'm, one of the things that the board is going to be evaluating is access to our parks. We decided this in executive committee a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to start studying access and how we can get more folks to the parks. So I'm looking forward to that eval and seeing what happens there, which is exciting. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention that if folks are interested in looking at lakes and water issues, the executive committee of the Lakes and Watershed Commission meets this Thursday, and attached to their agenda are some of their prior budget recommendations related to, aquatic plant harvesters and what we can do to support better agricultural practices, and beach safety, lake safety, community education. So if folks are interested in those issues, kind of tuning in to that meeting where they're talking about budget recommendations is a good idea, and trying to support those as the budget process comes on later this year would be good as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Heidi. And I will say I got to drive a weed cutter last summer. Super fun. Was not expecting it to be that great, but it totally was. Um, so as Heidi mentioned, upcoming budget process, we are obviously at the end of June right now. Our departments are preparing their budget requests. The next couple months, the county executive and his administration are going to be meeting with the departments, reviewing the departmental requests. We will start having public hearings in September. Those will be advertised as always to folks. We will then get a budget from the county executive in October, at which point we will start our standing committee review, do more public hearings, do our own deliberations, hopefully pass a budget. If there's a county executive, veto, all of that we're looking at mostly the month of November. And then we are into the next year already. So we will be, and I actually think I have this on the slide. Yeah, so we have two really great resources on our budget. There's a sweet video that one of our county interns put together about our budget process. It's at that YouTube link, which is also linked on our county board website. We also utilize a budget simulation tool called Balancing Act, in which we put real numbers for the real budget that we are working on, and folks can go in and basically let us know how they think we should be spending county money. And it will actually say, oh, well, you're not balanced, so you got to change something. It's a really cool resource, and there's full tutorials online, and that one, like I said, is also on our website. We also launched earlier this year some resources for members of the public. So if this is something that any of y'all are interested in, there is a legislative process overview for the county's ledge process, information about all of our committees, and then there's the Legislative Information Center how-to, which basically tells you how to navigate everything on the county board's website or the county's website. So the best website is board.countyofdane.com. And from there you can access, county committee schedules, any of these, resources here. It's, or if you have questions, you can, find out who your supervisor is or see who's on what committee. It's kind of a one-stop shop for county board information, which we're pretty excited about. And that is the end here. So I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to ask Liz or Heidi to jump in with anything that we didn't touch on, and then I'm going to ask, I guess, Eli, if you want to facilitate questions or how you want that to happen. We're here.
Right. Did Heidi or Elizabeth, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I guess the only thing I'd add is just with those last couple slides of resources. I know a lot of my teacher friends and professors and folks at UW have kind of enjoyed those to kind of help support some of their classroom discussions around local government. So I would just say if you have some friends in education, it might be nice to point those in their direction as well.
Yeah, I guess I wonder if Chair Eicher, you want to mention anything about what the executive committee has looked at in terms of, well, two things, maybe redistricting as well as kind of the return to meetings post or COVID, dealing with COVID, because folks might be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as many of you might know, Dane County passed a independent redistricting commission resolution a couple of years ago. So county supervisors are no longer drawing the lines. We have a committee of independent community members and clerks who had to apply. They had to go through an application process. It was and then appointed by the county clerk and myself. And they have been meeting for the last number of months in preparation for when we get census data, and then they will be drawing maps. So we have completely taken politicians out of the equation here in Dane County when it comes to map drawing. We wish the state of Wisconsin and other places would follow suit, but you know, that's just us. So we are expecting data from the census in the next month or so. There are still some questions, I think, from the state as to whether they're going to have legislation that delays delays the maps, or if it actually allows the state legislature to go back in and redraw our maps once we've already drawn them, which is something that we are opposed to in Dane County because we have an, as I said, independent commission who's ready to draw our maps. But we also received a really great presentation from our redistricting commission staff at our last board meeting on a tool called Representable. And Representable is awesome because it not only is a map drawing tool, but it also allows folks to talk about what their community is and who their community is. It's one of the things with the census data and redistricting is, you know, ensuring that we keep communities together, that we're not packing or like, you know, splitting up communities. So this allows folks to, you know, talk about their community in normal people terms. So not like, you know, in the super political redistricting terms. So it's a really user-friendly tool that we are excited to bring online. There will be a whole ton of public outreach to, you know, all of the neighborhood groups, all of, you know, basically we have an insane outreach list in our office. So everyone is going to get this, and I'm really excited about that. The other thing that Heidi mentioned that we are in the middle of, I think, discussing and the executive committee has been talking about is when do we go back to in-person meetings? The county board did a survey of county staff, of county supervisors and the public about what do people want to see? Did they like virtual meetings? So they want to come back full time? And one of the things that we heard from folks is that they're interested in a hybrid model. We have no idea what that would look like. We also know that we don't quite have the technology to make all of that happen yet. So we are actually in the process this summer of upgrading our technology in the city county building in room 201, which is the big chambers, and then the meeting rooms on the third floor. So this means that the microphones will actually work. But it also means that we'll actually, once we figure out logistics, we'll be able to, you know, facilitate a hybrid meeting. So we are, I think, still working through that. County buildings are closed at the moment. We are virtual for the time being, you know, through summer. The city, I think, is on a different schedule, but you know, I think we are looking forward to, you know, continuing to, you know, center the accessibility and the equity pieces of our meetings and those learnings from COVID and implementing those and then integrating those into our hybrid meeting plan as we move forward. But it's, in talking with our staff, who I will say did an incredible job of helping us transition to completely virtual within like a week and a half last year. This is a whole other mountain, and they are working incredibly hard on it right now. And I think we'll continue to, but a lot of credit to our staff to, you know, to helping make these virtual meetings happen, and also to y'all in the public for showing up virtually, which is a little bit different.
Terrific. Well, thank you, all three of you, for that excellent presentation. It sure underscores essentially how important the county is to everyone, whether you live in the city of Madison or not. For no other reason that your budget's $600 and whatever million. The money talks, and that's quite a bit of money. So we, the county board supervisors, have agreed to answer a few questions. If you have a question, I'd ask that you digitally raise your hand if you can, and you can find that feature at the bottom of your screen. There's a button now that says reactions. If you give that one click, one of the options there is raise hand if you click that. So, and if you can't find it, don't worry. You can actually just, we're an intimate crowd here. We can just, you can just unmute yourself and I'll call on you. But up front, I would ask that folks raise their hands if you have a question. So are there any questions of our county board supervisors? That was a complete, okay, good. I was gonna say that's a pretty complete presentation. I see 2 hands up. I saw Ron's hand first, followed by Bonnie's. So Ron, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for your service. In particular, I wanted to thank Supervisor Leitner. She and I served together on the Beacons Community Advisory Board, and thank you for doing that. And I guess I need to thank Alder Heck because he's also on that as well.
Well, I am too, Ron. Come on.
Yeah, you are too. But they're the elected people. I'm paying attention to them tonight.
Sure, I'm with you.
So I had 2 questions if I could sneak 2 in. One is about city-county relations. If you think back in the past year and a half, what are the 2 areas that you think that the city and the county really did a great job collaborating on for the betterment of everybody in Dane County and in the city of Madison? And then the second part of that question is, do you have any areas that you think that there could be improvement in city-county relations?
Would any
I
of
guess
our
I could jump in unless you had something, Annalise.
Well, I was just gonna say, our handling, our public health department that we share, and our ability as Dane County, as a whole community, City, Madison, everyone around, to come together and make it through this pandemic. I mean, we lost friends and neighbors, and nothing will ever, replace that. But the response that we had in Dane County, and the, communication and collaboration that we had, I think saved a lot of lives. And I will forever be grateful to our communities and our public health department for ensuring that that happened. And, we continue to crush the statewide vaccination rate. So like, I'm still really excited about that, but go ahead. That's all I wanted.
No, well, that's exactly what I was going to say too. I think that the pandemic really highlighted the importance of public health, and just what a difficult job that is too, and how much scrutiny, and just what a thankless job that was throughout the pandemic. So just we'll forever be grateful to the folks who are working in those spaces.
I'm good at identifying areas for improvement. So I will go take that question. I think we can do a better job of talking about our ARPA funding together and our shared priorities and initiatives. So I serve on the City of Madison Education Committee. I'm a appointee of Chair Eicher to that committee. And I think the Education Committee has alders and supervisors and school board members on it, and a designee from the mayor and the superintendent. Sent a really simple communication like, hey, we have like 5 shared priority areas that our Education Committee has identified. Youth employment, mental health, housing insecurity and homelessness, digital access, internet access, and there is another one, and I'm spacing on it right now. But the point being, let's really maximize these federal dollars, and we need to talk to each other to do that. And we need to, look at what the different eligible activities are, what each of our different government bodies are getting, and be really planful, because like I mentioned before, we don't get this kind of money coming into our community every day. And there's a lot that we can, do together. And so I hope we can increase our communication and our collaboration around these funding priorities, so we can make sure they stretch as far as they can.
Thank you. The second question, and forgive me, I had to leave the room for a minute. I don't know that anyone mention the county jail. I know that the city approval process is ongoing. I'm on the steering committee for that. But what about the county jail? And are we at that point where the county has taken all its necessary votes to move this project along?
So the one vote that I think hasn't happened is the vote on the contracts for the jail, which happened after the city process.
That'd be the contracts for construction, architecture, that type of thing?
The construction, correct.
Yeah. So that's all that's left. Thank you.
Oh.
Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Appreciate your support for that.
Chair Eicher, can you, I know that finance is meeting this week to take up a proposal for a no bid contract to JFA Institute to analyze jail population and make recommendations related to cost containment. Can you tell us, I was just wondering, does the projected cost overruns related to the building material, spike in prices during COVID and all that stuff, is that going to affect the timing to the city plan commission?
At this point, I'm not sure, Heidi, with the cost spike. We are seeing significant cost increases in construction costs and any project happening anywhere. Even trying to buy wood at Home Depot or Menards for a project at my home, it's expensive. But finance has a contract in front of us on Wednesday for a contract with JFA Institute, which is Jim Austin. Jim conducted the jail stress test and has also analyzed a significant amount of Dane County's data and made recommendations. And the next step of that work is to, evaluate systems-wide change so that we can stabilize low population in our jail, and also, make recommendations as how to keep it low, which is going to require system-wide collaboration. This is something that the Criminal Justice Council talked about last week, which happens to be something that I chair, which is, it was, I think, a good conversation, that there's willingness among, the sheriff and the DA and our judges to, look at a system-wide reforms as to, how we actually make some change, because there's a lot of stuff that the county board would like to do, but we don't get the opportunity to mandate what our DA or our judges do. So this is going to help look at all of that across the board. And then JFA also does, as part of their work, has done a significant amount of work across the country in reviewing projects and making further recommendations. And so Jim Austin and JFA Institute are going to continue to partner with Dane County as we, work our way through, the challenges that, are facing all of us, I think, with the criminal justice system and the need for changes.
Thanks. It just seems to me that if the drawings are only 60% done, and this contract would have them being reviewed within 90 days, that it's not, like, things might change. So it just feels like that timeline probably would need to be adjusted. That was just my assumption, but I'm not sure.
Sure, and I don't know that I have the answer to that right now, Heidi, sorry.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Ron. I have Bonnie, followed by Pete, and then maybe Jane and Jonathan. That remains to be seen given the hands. But Bonnie, please go ahead. Oh, Bonnie, I think you might be muted.
Lowered my hand and then forgot to unmute myself.
Oh.
I just wanted to say thank you to the 3 supervisors for spending their time with us, as well as our 2 alders. I guess just kind of, well, first of all, grateful for all that Public Health Madison Dane County did. And also just want to recognize there's still a significant portion of our communities that are historically underserved and do not meet anywhere close to the vaccination rates that are regularly reported. So just wanted to recognize that. But this goes back to sort of Ron's point to like city and county relations. Just for complete transparency, I work in the city clerk's office, and we have never shut down because of COVID. And I feel like there's been some frustration and maybe some miscommunication with county side on the buildings reopening. And when we talk about things like accessibility, like because we are the ones answering the calls, answering the door, we have on the county side treasury, literally vital records. And during COVID, that these offices remained relatively inaccessible to the public, especially public who maybe not have access to smartphones or the internet. I just remember the first month of COVID, there was a father who needed insurance for his son who was helicoptered to the ER, was trying to get the birth certificate and couldn't get the birth certificate because vital records was still closed. And so just wanted to hear some sort of feedback on, I know we've heard tentatively that county might be back in their offices in September, but I'm just concerned how the public is being served in an accessible manner when it's still inaccessible and they literally closed off and keyed the upper floors 2 weeks ago. Sorry, not trying to like emotionally dump all this stuff out, but it's just, there's like frustration.
Yeah, it's a lot. And thank you first for your work in the clerk's office. I know that like y'all's clerk's office and the county's clerk's office and our county treasurer department or the treasurer's office are like they have remained open and they've been doing work. And so I think that I know and what I can say is that I know that the administration and the county exec's office has been meeting regularly and discussing regularly with folks at the city and have been in conversation about getting things, open. My understanding is that some county departments and services are going to start phasing back in the summer. And so some of that could be seen, sooner than September. I know that individual departments are reviewing how they are staffed. And the sort of that telecommuting and whether or not services can be provided, virtually, or, do we need to have someone physically in a space? And so each department, has been evaluating that. I expect that we're going to see some changes over the next couple of months. And I know it's frustrating, but I would just ask for continued patience. And if there are ideas or, things like that, please, send them up a letter, send them over to the county, to, communicate them directly to your supervisor, and we can get in touch with folks at the administration. I'm certainly going to mention your comments. I won't name you, of course, but I'll mention your comments to some folks when I talk to them this week about, just some of the confusion and the need for as we get back in, to a little bit more in person, if you will.
And I think your comments too, appreciate all the work Annalise, you and the executive's office have done on kind of balancing all those needs. But I think your comments really do highlight an important piece is I think, for some folks who do have that access to technology, it's been a little bit easier to access some of these services. Like I know the county clerk's office has been doing online scheduling and things like that, and that works for some people, but not everyone. So I think that's a great important reminder. So appreciate you bringing that up tonight.
Great.
And thank you for trying out hybrid meetings, because that's super exciting.
Don't get too excited. I think it's going to be really ugly when we start it. But I I am a full-blown millennial. Yeah, I am so committed to figuring this out. So we will, fingers crossed, we working really hard on it.
You know, IT is great. I hope we can figure out the in-person and the online registrations because that would be fantastic.
Thanks
And
a ton.
thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Bonnie. The next person I have is Pete, followed by Jane or Jonathan. So go ahead, Pete.
I appreciated the information on county government, kind of a refresher or introduction, depending on where I was on certain parts of that. I think, you know, Madison's been described as a bubble of its own, but I think Capital Neighborhoods is a much smaller bubble of its own, and that we get so involved in so many things that happen in our immediate connection, and we get really involved in the city committees and process, and don't necessarily pay that much attention to where the county's involved, and kind of highlighting where some of those activities are is good. Just speaking from what I see from people involved in Capital Neighborhoods, I don't see very many involved in county issues or county committees. And kind of, this is leading more to a context of, you know, Madison is clearly a dominant portion of the population in the county, but a very small portion of the land mass. And I'm curious on how that dynamic plays out, and where you see input or information, you know, as far as what I would say I see directly to Capital Neighborhoods has been lately affordable housing support coming from the county, in addition to what developers can get through WIDA or other state or federal tax credits, and what the city has been trying to provide. But short of that, you know, we don't have a direct involvement in county activities necessarily, or, you know, we certainly criminal justice and the jail, and, you know, we see that, but we don't necessarily deal with that on a more regular basis within our organizations and meetings. And be interested to hear your thoughts on that, and certainly for Heidi and Elizabeth, you know, what else you hear from constituents that we aren't hearing in Capital Neighborhoods, because I don't think we contact, you know, those involved and those, you know, generally active in the neighborhood. I haven't heard much of direct involvement in county issues. So it's, we seem to come at it, you know, we get focused on right next door, I guess. Yeah. We don't get much out of the 1 square mile of downtown, let alone the however big Madison is these days. Or the county.
I just want to mention, to your point about, you know, the city of Madison and the rest of the county. I obviously represent somewhere that's the rest of the county. Our second largest community here out in Sun Prairie, and what's really interesting is that a lot of the challenges in that the city of Madison sees are seen on different scales across the county, whether that's in Sun Prairie or Middleton, or even out in our rural communities. There is a ton of shared experience and shared challenge. It just happens a little bit differently. So, I think particularly when we talk about affordable housing, I know Heidi's an incredible advocate for more affordable housing in the city of Madison. And then there's, folks out in the, more rural and, suburban parts of the county who are like, well, we're struggling with that too. So there's a lot of shared, a lot of these issues are shared. We just, as I said, experience them a little bit differently, which has its benefits and has its challenges.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. That's what you basically summarized my answer, Annalise, is we all face the same challenges, right? We're all just kind of trying to live our best lives and take care of our families and make sure we do have that great high quality of life, and whether it's challenges to broadband access in rural communities or some of the struggles we've been seeing in more urban areas that were highlighted throughout the pandemic, or again, just those needs for affordable housing. We're increasingly just seeing demands throughout the entire county. I know this information is a bit dated. I think it was one of Kurt Paulson's famous 2015 housing studies, but we could literally dump thousands of units on the Dane County area and we wouldn't even be keeping up with the demand for housing. And it's just those dynamics of just being like, Dane County is a thriving place where people want to work, they want to be. It definitely has its challenges when it comes to racial disparities and lots of other issues, but in general, this is a place people want to live, and that puts enormous pressure on development and infrastructure throughout the county. So you really do see the same issues over and over, just kind of different sides of those issues.
I'd say too, I mean, I'm really lucky. My constituents, I mean, I get contacts from outside my district too, but I just feel like I have a lot of really active, engaged constituents that are contacting me and pressing me, asking me to introduce resolutions. Sometimes they're clearly within the county's jurisdiction. Sometimes it's more of, we want you to speak out and, state your commitment to a free Palestine. And, and these are issues that are important to my constituents. And while, of course, Dane County can't wave a wand and make it so, our constituents are contacting us, asking us to elevate their issues and the things that they care about, and use the power, the voice of the county board to speak out on a range of things. And recently, my district goes up into Eakin Park area, really close to the airport. June 3rd, we had a presentation on what the county is doing with respect to PFAS contamination at the Dane County Airport. And we heard from, and thanks to Chair Eicher for getting that committee of the whole together, we heard from the airport director, a representative from the Air National Guard, as well as our county corp counsel, assistant corp counsel, Amy Tutwiler, working on that. So that's also a, available recording that you can watch to get more information on what the county's doing. A lot of concern about the proposed siting of the decision of the Air Force to site F-35s here, and what that means also for PFAS contamination related to those construction projects that are moving forward to house the giant simulator of the F-35. So I do want folks to know that we did, Supervisor Chavela and I have been working on a resolution that was introduced last Thursday, 2021 Resolution 88. This would create a clearinghouse, a website where the county would post PFAS related information related to meetings and monitoring of PFAS levels, as well as new developments as it relates to airport construction and the F-35s. It also would unequivocally state the county board's opposition to the F-35 siting at Truax. So I know folks have reached out on that, and some of you might hear jets more than others depending on where you live, but certainly something I've noticed as I've been home more in the last year is the noise from the fighter jets as well as commercial jets. But another thing that another new resolution that was introduced that is in response to a number of needs or a number of advocates in our county schools, as well as working in the community, our community social workers, was to address the needs of folks who are not prioritized for HUD funding because they are not qualified as literally homeless. They are couch surfing. And so they might be doubled up with a friend or a family member, but still in a very precarious situation. And because of the HUD kind of prioritization and very limited funds we have, they just don't really, they don't really qualify, or they don't they never get to the list in terms of folks who are on able to get into housing programs funded through our federal homeless assistance grants. So Supervisor Michelle Doolin, who represents kind of Mesa Maney Cross Plains area, introduced a resolution to create a new county staff position to kind of address this need, to come up with some data, funding recommendations, and really help us figure out how to better serve this population that has been unfortunately underserved for a long time. So just a couple of things that we're working on that would be funded with COVID recovery dollars towards the end of this year, and then hopefully be in the base of the budget should the resolution get adopted this year.
And I'd say, you know, I hear from constituents about many similar issues to what Heidi just described, you know, and I think downtown residents are obviously a very involved group and really keenly aware of a lot of the issues that are facing, you know, our city and our county, especially when it comes to homelessness and housing. I think folks are keenly aware of that, and it's obviously something we see every day. So I just want to take an opportunity too to say thank you to groups like CNI for fostering such great discussions about like kind of what we can do as a community to kind of make sure we're supporting folks and providing services and thinking creatively about housing and shelters. So just appreciate the work everybody here does, you know, and everyone's support is greatly appreciated and really does help us move forward on these issues in meaningful ways.
And I didn't want to leave out the interest and engagement around policing and law enforcement and incarceration. Chair Eicher mentioned this earlier, but you know, we were being asked to take a look and examine the policies of our own sheriff's department, and also like how we as a funder or a contracting partner with other municipal law enforcement agencies can you know, support demands from community for more transparency and oversight, and you know, reducing excessive force incidents and things like that. So we debated at length on Thursday, no knock warrants, for example, the county resolution. So that's an area of continued engagement and a lot of awesome activism and organizing, especially by young people and Black, Indigenous people of color.
Thank you all for your responses, and you know, I should be careful how far I drag my friends and neighbors along on, you know, my personal perspective or involvement in city versus county activities. So don't be offended if I slighted you on where you're involved, but friends and neighbors. Thanks.
Well, I was a mouse click away from kicking you out of the meeting there, Pete, but I'll let it slide this time. All right, and perhaps for our last question of the evening, I think it would be Jonathan in this case, if the camera is to be believed. So go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you, Eli. This is Jonathan Cooper, and I want to thank our three county board members for presentation tonight. It was great. I raised my hand and took it down a couple times because Ron Luskin basically asked the questions I wanted to ask about the jail consolidation expansion proposal. But I thought I'd take the opportunity, and I'll do it quickly because we're running pretty late, to note that the neighborhood steering committee was notified at the end of last week that the plans to take this proposal through the county or through the city approval process are again on hold now till September. This is the second time this one's been put on hold. It went on hold just about a year ago. And unfortunately, at that time, Supervisor Doyle attempted to get a little movement to reconsider the proposal that didn't really go anywhere. That was unfortunately a lost opportunity, I think. But I just want to say at this point that I understand there are budget concerns that are sort of causing this current pause, but I would really encourage the county to move forward on some sort of jail expansion consolidation plan. We've been told time and time again that this really needs to be done. It's not going to be quite the slam dunk through it's liable not to be quite the slam dunk through the city approval process that I think the the design committee, the design folks think it might be. So I just want to, in short, say, let's get this one done. It's overdue. Let's do something, and let's do it sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you for that. Ron, Heidi, did you want to say something?
Just in the interest of transparency, I just don't want anyone to think that I support the current jail consolidation project as planned. I don't. And I'm happy to talk with anyone about why I do support addressing health and safety needs in the 6th and 7th floor of the city county building. I do think we can rethink the current project plan and do more to invest in like the triage and restoration center, which will be a diversion and alternative to jail for people experiencing behavioral health needs. So I know that all of us, even though we might have different positions on the jail, all of us are committed to moving forward solutions that will make the jail a more safe place to be for people. But again, we've hit another kind of roadblock, and we are going to continue to be talking about this.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Jonathan, it seems to be driven by budgetary concerns, but it was encouraging to see the public statements made by the county executive about really wanting to maybe take a step back and look at all these other great initiatives that we're investing in and all the great work that is happening throughout law enforcement and the justice system to really find ways to keep the jail population low, find more appropriate means of intervention, and make sure that this project reflects the impacts of all that great work. So I think you, as well as a lot of us, are looking forward to seeing how those conversations evolve.
Well, thank you both, Heidi
say
and Elizabeth.
And I'll just say that the Triage and Restoration Center is moving forward throughout the summer here. We had an RFP go out late last year, and so that work is continuing to move forward. And then something that y'all might be interested in, the Community Justice Center, which is something that folks in our community I think have been talking about for a number of years. There is a community conversation, and I can make sure that Eli gets the information and he can send it to y'all. But there's a community conversation about the Community Justice Center, ideas and how that could work to, not just benefit Madison, but all of Dane County on July 13th. Given just talking about, alternatives and whatnot, I think the board and I think our new sheriff and folks are, really interested in seeing how we can keep population low. But I think that there are a number of us that are committed to seeing floors 6 and 7 of the city county building closed, and that we actually have some sort of system that, reflects our values here in Dane County. So I appreciate the question, John.
Well, thank you, all three of you. And I will just close by saying I would love to see a more holistic look taken again at the justice system, including what happens with the jail. So thank you.
And just as a plug, because I get to chair the Criminal Justice Council and I get to see all the various pieces of our justice system, not that others don't, but the county board is a small part of it. So if you are not also engaging our sheriff, our clerk of courts, our DA, our judges, if you're not also engaging those folks, our municipal judges, our municipal court, our municipal, police, we're all connected. There are so many connections. And so, we can make certain changes in one sector or another, but if we're not, again, working holistically on that, then we're not going to see the wholesale change that we need. And so please, please, please don't just come to our county supervisors, please engage with those other folks as well. There's a lot of really good stuff to have to happen here in Dane County. And I think that we're in a really good position to do that.
Well, with that, I do want to once again say a heartfelt thank you to our honored guests, our members of the County Board of Supervisors, Chair Eicher, and Supervisors Doyle and Wegleitner. I think this was a great presentation. I know a lot of folks have indicated to me many times that they've always just been really wanting to learn more about what the county is up to and what they are doing for the community. And I think you did a great job of expanding on that. So, and I know a lot of folks couldn't make it to tonight's meeting. And so the reason I was really kind of tripping over myself to make sure it was recorded was because I knew I was going to be, thrown through a window if it wasn't. So if anyone both here at the meeting or is going to be watching the recording later is ever interested in getting involved in a lot of the kind of neighborhood steering committees, issue committees that you've heard, feel free to reach out to me at president@capitalneighborhoods.org and we can get you signed up to those groups or at least learn more about the topics that they're discussing. Anyway, thank you all again. Hope you all have a pleasant night. And once again, thank you to our honored guests. It was a great presentation. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Eli. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.